I'm currently at a church with my husband that has a female pastor and elders. I read a book recently that said to submit to my husband in all things, except if he asks you to sin. Is it a sin to stay? And then she follows up and asks, should I attend another biblically sound church on my own?
Yes. Okay. So, all right, let's break this down a little bit. I'm currently at a church with my husband that has a female pastor and elders, and I know, Deborah, thank you for the question. I know you understand this, but just so everyone watching can also understand it, is that okay? If you're at a church with a female pastor, you're not at a church. You don't have a pastor and you don't have a church because God defines the church. We don't. God does. Christ does. He's the head of the church. We aren't. And he has ordained it that men are to be the leaders, spiritual leaders in both the home and the church. And so a woman cannot be a pastor. So if you're at a quote unquote church with a female pastor, you've got a social club maybe, but you don't have a church. Okay. So just so everyone watching understands that. All right. So Deborah read a book that said to submit to her husband in all things, except if her husband asks her to sin. Is it a sin to stay? I would agree with that. Yes. Yes. Women are called by scripture to submit to their husbands as the head of the home. And of course, my guess is, now I don't know this gentleman, but my guess is that if he's at a church with a female pastor and he's comfortable with that, my guess is that he's probably not converted. You're probably dealing with a false convert here. So yes, I do believe it would be. I don't think you're obligated, Deborah, to stay at this false church, even though your husband wants you to, because it would be a sin. Yes, it would be a sin to stay because we are to worship God in spirit and in truth, John chapter 4. And there's no way to worship God in a false church led by a wolf or a wolfette or whatever you want to call it, female pastor.
Yeah.
So there's no way to worship
So
God.
does she say, husband, I love you, you go do you, I'll do
Yeah.
me, and if you want to
Yeah.
come with me? So then
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
takes on a role that's really unbiblical, but she has to. She takes on the leadership role for her
Yeah.
home.
Yeah, she has to. Yeah, she's in a position where she's kind of forced to be the spiritual leader. Um, and Deborah, I would say that tell your husband, honey, or whatever you call him, honey, I love you, I do, but I cannot violate my conscience, and my conscience is informed by Scripture. Please don't ask me to violate my conscience, and if you do, I can't do that. So yeah, I would say, Deborah, you're not obligated to go to a false church. So be kind, be respectful, but you're not obligated to go to that church. And yes, I do think it would be sinful for you to do so.